this program. Viewer discretion is advised.
You're listening to Odyssey, A Tale from the Road, an audiobook by Christopher Cologne. All rights reserved. Any resemblance to persons living or dead are purely coincidental.
Chapter 35. We had our pizza and made our way to the stadium. On the way, Minerva had filled me in on the stories surrounding Penny and the other members of Gateway Drug. Penny had expressed a small interest in doing a side project in a magazine interview. At the time she wasn't having any trouble with her bandmates, she just desired to expand creatively. She loved heavy metal. It was her roots. She just wanted to do something a little different. Things were getting a little stagnant and she needed a break. The thing about the music business is that it is less about the music and more about the business. As soon as Penny spoke expanding her horizons, bloodthirsty, money-hungry lawyers jumped on her. Penny was a marketable commodity. She was pretty, talented, and a bit naive. She allowed these music business lawyers to take over her life. In the past with her band, things ran smoothly. She toured, she performed, and she partied. Things always seemed to take care of themselves. She never realized how much all the lawyers were pulling the strings in the background. She wasn't in the business to make money. She was a musician first and foremost. The fact that it had provided her with a comfortable lifestyle was second-hand to her desire to be an artist. The lawyers knew that she was limiting herself when playing for Gateway Drug. The lawyers felt that she needed to be in the spotlight. Her face would sell albums. She had notoriety as the lead guitarist for her current band, but she had potential to be a breakthrough crossover artist. Heavy metal performers didn't make the kind of money a pop artist could. The lawyers knew this, and isolated Penny as soon as they could. Animosity quickly grew between the members of Gateway Drug and Penny. Divided they would fall. The lawyers could then leech off Penny and her newfound fame as a pop artist. By the time Gateway Drug made it to Olympic Stadium, Penny had absolutely no interaction with her former friends and soon-to-be former bandmates. This hit home for me. I missed my bandmates. But fate had set our lives on different paths. Penny had people who were actively trying to keep her from the people she grew up with. Vicious, selfish, single-minded interlopers had hatched all types of schemes to get their greedy hands on her future profits. Penny had been a pawn in their game. She just wanted to play music. And it was all coming to an end tonight. Driving to the stadium, Minerva and I passed by Cornell University. A rush of memories flooded my mind. Every year there was a new flow of students. Kids, fresh out of high school, this was their first time away from school living on their own. They would come out in droves, trying to get into the bars that were scattered around town. Most of these bars had pretty lax policies when it came to checking these kids for identification. These kids were their primary source of business. The bars turned a blind eye to the underage drinking. These were future professionals, and they were under a lot of pressure in their studies. These bars were the release valve for those students. As long as things didn't get out of hand, they were allowed to drink and enjoy themselves. Every now and then you would hear about a drinking and driving fatality, involving the students, but that usually stemmed from drinking that happened on campus. The bars were known to have a firm hand on ejecting any rowdy customers. Didn't happen often. My band would often play these bars all around town. When we all first started, we were all underage to go into these bars. But we were there to perform music, not to drink, so there was really nothing to stop us from getting up on stage and playing our music. We would always end up drinking, but that was more akin to fact that the bartenders never carded us. I have to admit, I was a little jealous of the college students. These were future doctors and lawyers. Life had afforded them the opportunity to go to school and get their higher education. I never had such a luxury. I did well enough in school, but college always seemed to be a distant fantasy for me. My parents didn't have that kind of money. I'm sure that if I really pushed the issue, my mom and dad would have made some sacrifices for my education, but I didn't want to put them in that kind of predicament. I had my music. I was proficient in it. My ear had been trained to pick up subtleties in the music. I could play pretty much anything I heard after a few tries. That was my gift. I always wanted to play music and I was living my dream. I wonder how many of those college students secretly wished they were in my position, on the road, living the dream. For all those future doctors and lawyers, also came the responsibility of living under their parents' thumb. Getting a college education was hard enough, without having to live under parents' scrutiny on how their investment is being spent. If a student had flunked out of school, they would have to return home in shame. The students would have feel that they have wasted their parents' money. That's a lot to handle. Had I been a failure? I was returning home with nothing to really show for it. I lost my bandmates. I lost our equipment. My only possessions had been the things Melissa gave me. There was no homecoming celebration for me. I was like one of those students that had squandered away their parents' money. I was returning home only through the generosity of others. This wasn't in my plans. I should have been dead on the side of the road a long time ago. I was living on borrowed time. For some reason, I survived. I don't know how and I don't know why, but I did. Minerva and I had made into the parking lot of Olympic Stadium. I felt like shit. I felt like a lowlife, a beggar. I was coming home with my tail between my legs. I lost everything. My favorite band had been breaking up and I felt like I was going to lose Penny forever. Those guys couldn't make it, what chance would I ever have? Put your hood back on, Minerva said. Arnie's men are crawling all around here. Some will be working along with security and I'm sure some will be mingling in with the crowd. The good thing is that they'll stick out among this crowd and it will be easy to spot them. We just have to steer clear of those idiots. The parking lot was pretty full. When we finally found a parking spot, we were nowhere near the stadium. We had to walk quite a bit. There were other people around us in the same predicament. Late arrivals grabbing what last parking spots were available. Like ants to an anthill, the crowds of people were all swarming towards one singular structure. I felt uneasy leaving the car. I felt safe inside, now I was out of its protective shell. It would be a long way back to the car, once I got inside the stadium. Far away from my comfort zone, each step filled me more with dread. I was exposed and vulnerable. The electricity of anxiety filled every cell of my body. The crowd surrounding us were also excited. Gateway Drug was known for its ravenous fans. People were hollering out in anticipation of seeing their favorite band, possibly for the last time. This didn't help my nervous energy. I was jumpy and unsteady. I was looking to see if there were any thick-necked thugs who were out to kill me. I don't know what the hell I was doing here. How did I let Minerva talk me into this? I did want to be here, but it may cost me my life. I couldn't blame the roaring crowd around us as we descended upon the stadium. I would be just as amped up, if wasn't already in fear for my life. The crowds bottlenecked, when we finally got to the gates of the stadium. First there a security checkpoint, where they checked your ticket. This is where the security guards would see if your ticket was valid, and secondly, if you were entering through the right gate. Waiting in line, I had seen the security guards scrutinize tickets. Ticket scalping had always been a problem and the guards were trained to spot phony tickets from the genuine article. Luckily, for the people in front of me, nobody had bought a bogus ticket. They would be ejected immediately. That would be embarrassing, because of the attention it drew to the person. Some people were desperate and unfortunate enough to buy a fake ticket. It wasn't their fault. Then the fear struck me. What if I had a fake ticket? Drawing that kind of attention to myself could be fatal. Could have Melissa and Minerva accidentally got me a bootleg ticket? It was too late. I was next in line. Ticket, the security guard half-heartedly demanded from me. He's probably said that word thousands of times in the past few hours. I wasn't prepared. Standing all that time in line, too busy trying to spot any of Arnie's men, I was distracted and didn't examine my own ticket. My hands fumbled through my pockets. If I left the ticket in the car, I would have to spend the next 40 minutes, making the round trip all the way to the car, just to stand in line again. Forget about Arnie's men, Minerva would kill me. She would just go in herself, abandoning me right there to get my own damn ticket, while she went inside the stadium. As much as I knew she loved me, I felt she would have no problems leaving me behind. It wasn't like I have much in my pockets. There were soft pieces of paper, which I instantly deciphered was the money that Melissa gave me, then I felt the stiff cardstock of the ticket in my pocket. Its rectangular shape instantly recognized by my hands. I pulled it out and trying to mask my own dread, handed it nonchalantly to the security guard. I held my breath. Time stopped as the guard examined the ticket. I watched in horror as the security guard reached up, ripped my ticket. That was it. The jig was up. I was caught, and he was already instructed to hand me over to Arnie's men. This guy was a brute himself, but didn't really fit the description of any of the whale's usual subordinates. My heart sank when I realized that the guard didn't rip up my ticket. He was just ripping off the end stub. I was so tense in fear of getting caught, I didn't realize what his exact actions were. He handed me back the larger portion of the ticket and looked right through me as if I didn't even exist. Next, he said as me motioned for me to pass. This guy only could have 2 words in his vocabulary for all I knew. His business with me was through. I no longer existed in his world. He wasn't even talking to me, he was talking to Minerva, standing behind me in line. It was a small victory of sorts. I had breached the first line of defense. Thank God, I had a legitimate ticket. This guy could have snapped me in half if he wanted to. That's a little extreme punishment, for presenting a fake ticket. But I was in his realm now. With all his security brothers in the area, I would be dead before the proper authorities could step in. I felt so helpless. Only my anonymity was going to keep me alive in this environment. Not wit, not luck, just blend in and be another face in the crowd and I'll be alright. Then I saw the next security checkpoint. The one with the metal detector and security guards frisking people for weapons. Any sense of victory washed right out of my mind.
Please visit twostrangersonePodcast.net.